On behalf of Group 11, we thank you for the opportunity to present to you our group project. Next slide, please. Buy now, pay later have grown in popularity for consumers and retailers. The pandemic has been a major factor behind the trend. Fintellect makes it simple for consumers to make purchases while paying them off quickly. And for those who do not want to go the traditional credit route, this is a viable option. Next slide, please. Understanding the problems. Problem number 1, predatory lending practices. If borrowers are to miss payments or do not have the funds to pay their balance in full, then they are hit with late fees and high interest rates. Problem number 2, lack of financial literacy. Currently, there are only 5 states that require a finance class to be offered, but it is not a requirement to graduate. It is clear that this needs to change. The economy is always changing, and finance plays a big part in all our lives. Building strong financial literacy should be prioritized, and it is a big part of our team's vision at Fintellect. Problem number 3 is the risk of buy now, pay later overextension. So overextension is a major risk factor according to the Consumer Protection Bureau, and they have found that the percentage of borrowers charged with at least one late fee has gradually increased during the past 2 years. Next slide, please. The goal of our team is to address the problems that face Gen Z and millennials. We can do that by offering a product that can solve those problems. It is important to us that we offer services and products that will make a difference in the fintech industry, as well as in the community we all share. Next slide, please. And I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to my colleague. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we would like to introduce you to a service that we created called Fintellect, which was formerly known as PayGood. The name may have changed, but our goal remains the same: to increase financial literacy of our user base and to help them establish credit earlier in life. Now, the Fintellect website itself just provides an easy-to-use interface for new and existing users to access and manage their accounts. But underneath the surface of that website is a custom-designed credit scoring algorithm powered by Python and hosted on a service called Anvil. We would like to take you through 2 different user journeys that demonstrate the functionality of this new service. But before we jump in, I want to share with you how we made this work. So if I open up the Fintellect website, you can see this clean and modern user interface that's easy to use and easy to apply for credit. Now, when a user initially applies for credit, they can sign up for a new account. For purposes of this demonstration, we'll use a demo account and pull up our first persona, which is Wendy. We consider Wendy a low-risk individual. So she has a low debt-to-income ratio. She's currently employed full-time. She has a high amount of financial literacy. She wants to borrow $5,000 to purchase some furniture she found on Black Friday. Now, Wendy identifies with the ESTJ Myers-Briggs personality type. And generally speaking, those type of personalities value making payments on time. They value avoiding late fees. They want to improve their credit score. And generally speaking, their perception of safety is very high. So if we were to fill out this form as Wendy, she's currently employed full-time. She has a high amount of monthly income and low monthly expenses. She identifies with the ESTJ personality type and none of these others. And she has a high degree of financial literacy. This text box isn't currently incorporated into our algorithm, but I will expand upon that later. So when Wendy submits her survey, she gets a success message to what we would consider a low-risk profile. She qualified for the $5,000, and we list out the terms of her loan here. We also give her a dynamic dashboard to help her manage her account and make payments. Now, if we go into our second persona, Bob, we consider Bob a very high-risk individual. He has a high debt-to-income ratio and is not currently employed, and furthermore does not have a very high level of financial literacy. He wants to borrow $1,000 for a new surround sound system. Now, Bob identifies with the ESTP Myers-Briggs personality type. Generally speaking, those types of individuals don't really value avoiding late fees. They don't value making on-time payments. They're not interested in increasing their credit score, and their perception of safety is generally low. So if we were to log out and open up the survey again using the same demo account, because we want to demonstrate that these values are not hard-coded behind the scenes. So if we were to fill this out as Bob, he's not currently employed. He has a low amount of monthly income, if any, and very high expenses. Bob identifies with the ESTP personality type, not financially literate. We're just going to fill this in with some text. When Bob submits this, he'll get a success message, but to a different profile that we would consider high risk. If I click into that, we can see that we don't want to outright reject Bob. We want to help him increase his financial literacy. And by doing that, we do that through a number of tests, as you can see here. Once Bob is done going through this literacy test, he'll then be shown the terms of his loan. So how do we make this work? As I said earlier, we use the service called Anvil, which is powered by Python. And the form that they use in order to apply for credit is hosted on the Anvil server. And the answers are captured in this algorithm. And we initially assign a burden score to each individual based on their debt to income ratio, and then take that burden score and combined it with the answers to the questions in the rest of the form. You can see here that based on how they answer the form, they're either assigned a high risk, low risk, or medium risk profile. Now, the reason we're showing this is because although this is a very simplistic version of what it could be, it'd be very easy to add as much content into this algorithm as we wanted to. So while this form is obviously very short, it doesn't get into much detail, it is not very difficult to expand upon. So that concludes the demo. I'm going to pass it to my colleague Peter to review the project timeline and financials.
All right, thank you, Brendan. So I would like to specifically indicate our timeline as the development of the project, which we started in August. As the timeline indicates, of course, the August 22 to the January 23 timeline are the actual years. So August of 2022 all the way to January 23, where we are trying to initiate, of course, the particular funding that we are trying to get in order to push this project into its state of excellence in January of 2023. In August of 22, we started this particular project. We decided that was a new BNPL program that needed to be initiated with a social and education framework. After a successful VC round of about $1.9 million, we were able to put a prototype together with some proprietary credit score algorithms. Then we felt that the name did not necessarily indicate previously what we are intending to do. So we decided that after several rounds of testing, we came up with Fintellect. Now we are due for the next VC round, which we are kind of requesting an additional $1.5 to $2 million. And then hopefully by January, we'll be able to put this online, as a full functioning program. The next slide will indicate some of the numbers that we try to adhere to, as well as in our forecast and our projection. The projected growth is that about 75% of the current BNPL customers are in the group of, Gen Z and millennials, which are approximately 170 million at the current census count. The growth in this particular industry is to be projected about 200%. The way that we are calculating our numbers is that we are estimating an average purchase of $2,000 approximately for a 4-month term, within, of course, certain interest parameters that Brendan has showed earlier, which means that we are anticipating about 2,500 new members by the beginning of the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. And then our expenses combined with salary, overhead cost, kind of estimated our overall break-even point, approximately about 1,800 to 2,000 new customers, with an anticipated growth to about 5,000 customers in 2024, which we then hit the $1 million net profit amount. So I would like to turn it over to Max, who will continue with the presentation.
Thanks, Peter. So just cover a couple scenarios between the positives and negatives from the headwinds and tailwinds. We have an easy repayment restructure with no hidden fees and also an exposure to our education platform. So once you go through the course, it's a quick approval step. And this is also increasing the ability for your purchase power. Some of our tailwinds could be, capital, where everyone defaults on their loans. And also the Myers-Briggs type indicator is the only thing we're holding our weight to as far as the ability to obtain or not obtain a loan. Overspending of applicants and credit deterioration, as well as no federal level regulation. Next slide, please. And last but not least, our 7 openings that we have are a couple full stack developer positions, front end development, a finance lawyer, a temp CFO, risk and compliance officer, and a BDM for our sales team, and then a market manager to increase our market penetration. In total, we have 8 openings. Next slide, please. And that concludes our